I encourage the founders and the leaders that I work with to finish all of their 2026 strategic planning before Thanksgiving. Imagine yourself ready for next year now. Most founders, operators, and owners would say that they struggle to plan ahead because, well, their reasons are just too fuzzy to figure out why. But what's really going on is this. Most founders and leaders drag their feet when it comes to communicating any kind of high-level commitments about where they see things going because they don't know if their team will respond with camaraderie or criticism. So in their minds, they're managing the status quo until they can privately build in more consensus. And what this does is it just puts more pressure on you as the point leader, because you're risking single point failure. Instead of brokering multiple one-on-one arrangements, I want you to work towards aligning multiple people into a team of leaders approach. This is where people buy into the why and the work, not just in being on good terms with you. And it does take an extra step, actually a few extra steps, which we're going to look at, but it is totally worth it going into the year. Now, before I continue and share the 5 steps to help founders and leaders get ahead for the next year, let me just frame up this conversation. I'm actually making this video with specific people in mind. These are founders and business owners and operators and leaders that I have a relationship with at some level. Maybe we just met, maybe we've emailed back and forth a few times, or we've had an initial work session, or there's a handful of y'all that I'm really, really grateful we get to continue in a coaching-based journey. And my hope is to raise my hand and say, I'm here to help you think about next year now. This is the time where you're doing leadership retreats and strategic offsites, and you're workshopping what 2026 needs to look like in your context. And this is a very normal thing for many leaders, and yet it is kind of awkward for a lot of you. And you've expressed that to me. I'm not, putting that on you. This is what I've heard in the feedback. And there's a few different reasons, but reach out because I really can help you with this objective. And it is so important because we know how powerful preparation is, because we know how painful procrastination is as well. So it's really mission critical you do this. And it's so important that I don't want to just kind of leave this good idea, floating out there on the internet. I want to actually go that next step and at least give you a template where you could do this on your own. And so let me get back to the notes and we can go through the full training. But if you know that you're ready to do this and you want me to help you to facilitate that, then just raise your hand. Let's knock it out sooner than later. For everybody else, I still want to help you win, and this video is going to serve that end. Okay? So I'm not automatically expecting everybody to jump at that kind of invitation, but I want the full training to help you implement what we're talking about very swiftly and successfully. Okay, so here is my big idea. I encourage the founders and the leaders that I work with to finish all of their 2026 strategic planning before Thanksgiving. So that is your internal artificial due date. All of your next year now conversations need to be done and documented and distributed by Thanksgiving. For some, you might say, that sounds amazing. We're already doing that. Wonderful. Others, you might say, you got to be kidding me. I don't think about next year now until next year is now. But it really is important. There are multiple benefits to this, but the main reason I want to urge you to do this is because you want to give your team a real holiday season to let down. And when operators, owners, senior leaders procrastinate on the big picture, they're not letting everyone else rest, recover, and get ready for the next push. Now, in fairness, I'm not describing some total government shutdown scenario, but what I am suggesting is you're going to give a lightweight view of where things are going sooner than later so that operations can continue day to day. If we don't proactively answer some questions, then our team are going to feel the need to fend for themselves. And what I have found is that in Q4 specifically, for whatever reason, everyone is quietly planning to pivot. And that's a good thing. In many cases, it's really good. We all want to be pivoting, growing, excelling. But in some cases, they might feel the need to pivot in spite of what's going on the team level. So when you lead with a clear view of the big picture, you are reassuring your team that they don't need to fend for themselves. They don't need to do the quiet quitting thing. They can remain engaged with the ongoing work, the day-to-day operations, knowing that you as the leader are facilitating those future-related questions and conversations in a way that is going to be satisfactory. So I don't know what your current situation looks like right now. I would love to be a part of as many of these leader retreats and strategic offsites as possible. So again, reach out. But in the case that this is not the right time for you, I still want to resource you to serve your team and to make sure that you get ahead of some of these negative side effects of not doing so. Instead of adding more to your plate and saying, hey, jump on a call and I'll tell you, what the 5 steps are and I'll kind of teach you how to do it, let me just share it right now. These are the 5 steps to get ahead for the next year on behalf of your team. Number 1, I want you to clarify the future. Number 2, you're going to identify the focus. Number 3, you're going to simplify the calendar. Number 4, you're going to fortify the culture. And number 5, you're going to multiply the team. Now, this is what I consider a lightweight way to deliver a clear leadership signal without stopping day-to-day operations. You're letting everyone know, hey, the leader is in the room. The leader is thinking and working about the next chapter now, the next year now, and they can just keep going, trusting that you're going to bring back profitable traction for the business or the organization. And I mentioned 5 things. You're probably wondering, okay, how long does that take to prepare? How long does that take to present? My hope is that it all happens in a 1-page plan that feels like some sort of bulleted outline, and you're going to give it to your team of leaders first, and it gives them just enough context and perspective to actually be a part of that big picture planning, and they feel like they have that ownership, that buy-in in where the business is going next or where the organization is going next. It's not meant to bring everything up, but it's meant to be official enough to help them know that the directional decisions are getting made. And that's really important. It gives everybody that vote of confidence. So I recommend that you personalize this 5-part template into either a written document or a visual slide deck. And then you'll present it kind of like in a open hand way with your direct reports, your team of leaders, maybe the 2 or 3 people that you really lean on. And then once it feels, more concrete in that level of consensus, then you just present it as, hey, this is where we're going with everybody else. You have written documentation, maybe you have a video like this that people can refer back to, and it's going to help you keep that continuity with the upcoming year in mind. So let's get into each part of this plan. Number one, the way that you clarify the future is with an annual thematic journey. An annual thematic journey. In other words, I want you to theme the year. Now, this could be your existing mission statement, which I'm a big fan of. Just stay mission central, keep everything simple. Or you can add a future focused phrase to reinforce it. Now, I know that a lot of the leaders I work with are a part of networks or franchise operations, and that's wonderful. So home office or HQ may already have some sort of, high level direction for y'all. And that's great. I just encourage you to adopt it and adapt it to fit in your context, because whatever it is, you're going to have to own it for the entire year. This clarifies the future in a narrative view. You get to tell the story for your team. It's not about all the stuff happening at you. It's about how you're going to show up on the front lines of every month, every week, every day, and you're going to stay focused on that thematic direction, that thematic journey. If we try to predict the year in the more objective terms, it just won't work. But when we commit in the ways that we can, so what can we commit to? We can commit to a story about who we're becoming and what we're going after, regardless of the circumstances that are going to unfold. And when we do that, we anchor the team on our journey to the future, and now they're not getting frustrated or fretty and wondering if they need to go, like I said, fend for themselves. All right, moving on. Identify the focus. You have to identify the focus, because either people know what to focus on, or they're going to have way too many options and excuses vying for their attention. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to build out the mission statement that we just worked on in step one, and we're going to spread it across the entire team-wide map, or you could say the org chart. And we're going to use the mission statement to identify the contribution in every part of the organization. So this identifies the contributions in the form of role clarity and goal alignment. This is really powerful and actually much simpler than you might think. Whenever we are tired, then doable things feel daunting. We say, oh man, that's too much effort. I don't have time for that right now. Well, you're the point leader. You're the directional leader. Either you identify the focus, or everyone else will come up with their own version of your vision. And so I encourage you, take 15 minutes and you'll see a transformation in your team culture just by doing this alone. So I'm committed to make this as practical as possible. And so that's why I have some bullets for you. This is how you identify the focus. Start with your organization. Identify the focus for the organization overall in actionable terms only. So we're not talking about the visionary, abstract stuff anymore, the aspirational stuff. We're just saying, okay, what's the focus for our organization right now? And you say, can we have more than one? And that's your judgment call. But typically, you're going to have way more energy on one. And it might be one big idea that kind of gets broken out into 2 or 3 chunks or checkpoints. But when you do this at the organization level, it will create the cascading clarity that you need to really serve every person on your team. So again, we're starting with the whole organization and we're identifying the focus. What is our focus? And you might just start with quarter 1, and then scale that out to quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, etc. I love these 90-day sprints because it's not too little, it's not too long, it's just right. So once we've got the focus identified for the organization, now we're going to identify the focus for the main teams or the main departments in your organization. So you got this big organization as a whole, we're all going for this focus. Okay, now we've got team A, B, C. They have a focus that contributes to that as well. And then once again, you're going to do that again one more time, just one more time. You're going to identify the focus for the main decision makers or the team leaders in those areas. Okay, so the whole organization, then each team or department, and then the leaders of them. If you want a bonus round, then you can show your team leaders how to do that exercise, and then they can run that with each of the contributors on their team. So every team member can now know their contribution. They know what their focus is in scheme of the big picture. I love this exercise because it helps us sum up what a worthy focus looks like. And these are two phrases that I've enjoyed over the years, so I want to pass it on to you now. Number one is, I heard this adage, whoever chases two rabbits catches none. So that's why this really matters. Number two, focus can become an acronym. Follow through, one, commitment until successful. That's focus. Follow through, one, commitment until successful. Now, what your team needs here is not a detailed job description, but really they need permission to own the mission with you. They want to know what their area of responsibility is, and they want to know if they can expect your support when they take ownership of this area. And it would really help them to see who else is actually accelerating or stalling progress in their zone. And that's what this does. You're taking your org chart, you're making it visual, but you're also making it personal. And it's seeing where all of these contributions fit into that big picture that you can provide. And that really is a signature strength, and I would say a core competency that the founder or the business owner operator needs to bring. All right, next, the way you simplify the calendar is by rhythms. All right, instead of manually making up the plan for each day, you lean into repeating cycles. That helps you practice being proactive and prepared. For example, cycles and seasons are in nature. You got spring, summer, fall, winter. They just keep happening over and over. Now, each season will look different year by year. You might have a colder winter than usual. You might have a longer summer than usual, but you can still expect them to show up. So the point here is simply that your team needs to know what they can count on when it comes to what you expect of them. We're not going for Groundhog Day every day on the team, but we want to leverage rhythms that reduce organizational friction and interpersonal frustrations. The most A to B way that I can urge you as the founder or a team of leaders is to simplify your calendar by turning the mission statement into 3 to 5 rhythms that are going to happen as monthly commitments on your calendar. All right, so again, I'm trying to keep this in like the short range workshop where you're not spending days and weeks on this. You're mainly just spending, hours and maybe a few days on this. And when you get to this section, You're clear about your mission on a big kind of story level, and then that's going to get worked out into every part of your operation. And now we're thinking about how that mission is going to be happening in the calendar view. And if you just tell that story about rhythms on a monthly basis, just give me monthly rhythms. What happens on a monthly basis over and over again? And you repeat that rhythm or those rhythms every month for the entire year. That's going to build the consistency that really gets breakthrough for you and your team. So do that as a means of serving your team. The intention is not to beat everybody to the best days of the year, and say, you lick all the cupcakes and say, mine, 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 but really to empower your team to start planning, start preparing in their own areas now. So we're shifting everyone into a culture of preparation. We're saying, hey, you can get started. Start thinking, start working, start preparing, because this is what our year is going to be about. All right, up next, the way you fortify the culture is by systems. Now, think about that. This may seem counterintuitive, right? But just hear me out, because you say culture is people and it's behaviors, and that is true. And you're like, okay, how are systems going to help with our relationships? But actually, they do amazing work on behalf of your relationships, your team morale, and your culture. So first, your culture is basically what's normal here in your context. It's a combination of what's celebrated and what's tolerated. It's what you design, but it's also what's just kind of happening on the edges as well. Now, we've heard a lot about culture in the leadership community at large, so let me just zero in on this one insight. Systems are meant to safeguard your culture. Think about that. Systems are meant to safeguard your culture. Professionalism can actually keep working relationships more personable and more vibrant. Instead of putting unnecessary strain on work buddies to sort everything out, put the weight of responsibility on the organization in the form of having prepared systems. Another way we could say it is having prepared responses. We have pre-decisions and we have protocols that help us to work through things that happen. The easiest way to execute this quickly and explain it confidently is by defining your team culture first in the weekly view, and then designing the systems that make it possible. Okay, so I want you to start to notice a trend in this 5-step strategy. The first one is more annual in focus. Okay, tell me about the journey, the thematic journey we're going to go on. Who are we going to become? What are we going to go for this year? Now we're looking, step 2 at the focus. And you can update that focus in 90-day, installments. So you're saying, hey, these are the goals, these are the contributions of our organization, our teams, and our team leaders. And then from there, we're moving into the calendar. We're designing it monthly. This is what rhythms look like monthly. This is where we press. This is where we rest. This is where we do maintenance. This is where we, level up our momentum, whatever that looks like. And you're like, well, Peter, what about the seasonal stuff? What about the annual stuff? You can sprinkle that on top, but in terms of momentum, you have to structure that momentum with your mission and with the things that you can do all year long. All right, so coming back to this idea of culture, how do you actually fortify your culture? Meaning, how do you safeguard your work relationships? How do you encourage camaraderie? How do you build trust? The way you do that is with systems. The more sloppy your approach to the organization is, the more vulnerable the relationships and the people in that culture are going to become. Professionalism can actually keep work relationships more personable and vibrant. Instead of putting unnecessary strain on work buddies to sort everything out, put the weight of responsibility on the organization in the form of prepared systems or prepared responses. The easiest way to execute this quickly and explain it confidently is by defining your team culture in the weekly view. So it's like, hey, this is the kind of week we want to have as a team. This is what we want it to feel like. And then you design systems that actually facilitate that. And if you can define what that culture needs to look like on a weekly basis and then design systems that make it possible, I think you're going to have a great cadence. The reason I put this in the weekly is because if your culture does not really get down to the brass tacks of your day-to-day operations, it's just too lofty, it's too ethereal, and the same goes for your systems. You don't want to create systems on systems on systems. It's just like we're going to be doing the same kind of work constantly. So let's do that core function, or let's do these core objectives really well. And what I found is designing your operations is going to factor in the people that make it happen. And it's not just, are they trained? Do they know the checklist? And are they reporting their metrics? It's understanding the chemistry and the synergy that's making that work overall feel like everyone's on fire, or like the whole building is coming down on fire. A few final thoughts on that. These are the systems that you need each week to experience the culture you're hoping for. Visualizing weekly work progress is much more doable than trying to mastermind all of your systems for the entire year, which feels more like 4D chess. I'm a big advocate for working in weeks, so that's why I'm going here as well. Reps turn into results. Organize your workflows, your tracking systems, your communications, all within this weekly cadence in mind. All right, last, the way you multiply the team is by deploying leaders, not depleting yourself or your current workforce. Now, this category is possibly the most important of all that we've mentioned, but it's also probably the most neglected or the most overlooked. How will this team grow, right? That's the question. This section is about the people you don't have yet on the team, or the people you have that aren't in the right place on the team just yet. This really hits home for solopreneurs and entry-level heavy teams. Because this can be actually a discouraging topic for leaders who really want to grow, I felt the need to share a faith-centered insight here to facilitate that paradigm shift from a limiting belief to a liberating one. When Jesus multiplied the fish and the loaves, he used what was already there in the group. Many leaders start this whiteboard session with me and they'll throw out a lot of phrases like, we don't have the time to train, we don't have the budget to hire, we don't have people to delegate, we don't have the right software, the right equipment, the right network. And that may all be the case, it's just not the point. What do you have access to? That's the question. And that's the thing that we're going to dedicate to the Lord and to this process of multiplication. When you find something that you can work with, then you repurpose it. That's how you get to multiplication. You take what you have and you repurpose it. For example, in this story, the thing that was meant to be lunch for one became a gift for many. if I could work with you in person, this would probably be the same thing I'd say right now. So this is my way of hopefully serving you, and you don't have to go through the extra added steps of, finding commitment, finding budget, making the session, getting with me getting with you or your team. Let's just get to it right now. I want you to repurpose yourself into a team, and then I want you to repurpose your team into a team of leaders. Now, I get it. Both of those things that I just said are going to ruffle feathers, because you might say it's not practical enough, Peter, or you might say, I've been trying to do that, and I know that what I'm touching on is a sore topic. But remember, our mindset is either cultivating abundance or it's killing it. So please just go through this audit, with me. Are you willing to repurpose yourself or your own workflow into a team operation? Can you imagine what you do getting torn into pieces that are going to get shared with others? As soon as you tear the loaf on your own workflow, you're going to see someone else who's hungry for that kind of work. Beyond that, if you already have a team of people, you have to repurpose the way you see them as well. Are they a means to just keeping the boat steady? As in just keeping tasks off your plate, just keeping things going, keeping people happy? Or are they capable of being a leader in their own right in their own work area? Now, I'm not implying that everyone will want to become a manager or a leader, but you've got to know who wants it and who doesn't. You have to know what people are capable of and what people are willing to go for. Otherwise, you're just as complicit with the sinking team morale that's happening. So my encouragement is, the hope here in step 5 is to repurpose people's capacity, starting with yourself, but then scaling out to others. And the way we do this is by getting them to share a team and then preparing the way for others to join that team at some level. All right, so we share the load, we prepare the way. Share the load, prepare the way. We're actually designing our operation in terms of teams, not tasks. And we're actually deploying leaders to share in these teams and then prepare the way for those teams to grow. And that's what I mean by, it's not just about team development only, but that has to move us into leader deployment. We're deploying people that used to be on our team to start leading new teams. And that is a process that happens over time, but it has to happen intentionally. It doesn't happen accidentally. You have to set the pace, you have to design the path, otherwise it's just not going to happen. This is a very simple process. But the reason it takes too long in many cases is because we have no intention of giving away our work. We think that our value is the deliverables that we facilitate, not the demand that we create. Now, why would I share all of this? Steps 1 through 5. 1, I do believe this is valuable stuff. It will help you fast track a mission critical document or a mission critical slide deck that you can prepare your team with for the next 365 and beyond. Regardless if you and I get to work together or not, I genuinely hope that you get the benefit of going through this training. Like, you've seen it all, you've got it all. You should be able to implement this now. You should be able to run with this and feel like there's added momentum that you didn't have just a few minutes before you started this video. In addition though, I do hope that there will be a handful of you that are ready to work with me, possibly even eager to get involved in this kind of strategic work. Please message me directly, and you can do that at peterburchfield.com. I'm offering this limited time series. This is just a handful of openings that I'm going to be making on my calendar to work directly with founders and leader teams that are really focused on their next year planning right now. You know, the reality is the in-person conversations that we're going to have in executive coaching, they're going to be way more personalized, more dialed in, more in-depth than even this right here. I'm sharing a framework that is going to be useful for many fields, but my joy is joining you and the work in your field specifically. And so it really is kind of like apples and oranges in my mind. So I'm happy to kind of broadly sow this framework with the hope that I can drill in more specific results and transformation in your leadership context. Sharing this is a great way to give you proof of concept that you can do this and that you need to do this. If you'll sort through this 5-part strategy on your own, then I know that we can accomplish even more together. All right, thank you for taking all this in. Again, my challenge is very clear. Prepare your team and prepare your future team for the next year. Now, you do that by completing this 5-part strategy. And I mean, just start with that template. You can go beyond that, but you want to have all of this next year thinking, next year stuff documented, decided, discussed, delivered by Thanksgiving. It's so important. It's so helpful that you give people time to rest and to get ready for that year. Don't just, procrastinate, drag it all the way to the end, because then you're basically asking them to just go literally from one ultra marathon right into the next ultra marathon with no sense of recovery and preparation in between. If you want to be really strategic about next year, don't plan the year you're hoping to have. Instead, focus on the kind of leadership team and the kind of leadership culture that you're going to need to have to make it even more remarkable than you can imagine. That's what this is about. Remember, the future has so many fields waiting for you, so prepare to go there.